Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our June 2023 board meeting. Before we begin, I would love to acknowledge that we are for tonight on the unceded and unsurrendered traditional territory of the Coast Tsimshian Snow speaking people. Sorry, we could all meet. Thank you. And as an uninvited guest on these territories, I take serious my commitment to understanding our shared truth and history. Thank you. Trustee Horn.
Motion to appoint of acting secretary treasurer.
A seconder to that motion. Thank you, Trustee Dalton. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So moved. Number 2, adoption of agenda. Motion, Trustee Pucci, seconded Trustee Horn. All in favor? Oh, sorry, I have an amendment to this agenda. On the very last page, it does say the existing bylaw and our proposed bylaw. I would just like to note that our proposed bylaw is now actually our existing, as was this took place last year in September, I do believe. Is that correct?
I'll
Trustee Pucci,
push, yeah.
as amended?
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. All in favor? Great.
Aye.
And it's
Can I get a
somewhere.
clarification? Is that
Oh, sorry.
11-2?
That is 11-1
One,
board meeting dates.
board meeting dates?
Yes.
Is now removed?
Pardon me?
Is that what you're saying? Is we removing that in the agenda?
No, that's that it reads as an existing bylaw
Oh, I see.
and then a proposed
I
bylaw,
see.
but it is no longer existing.
Right.
Our existing is our proposed.
Gotcha.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is removed. And now on to Superintendent Sandler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight, we are pleased to present Christy Tillman, who is band teacher extraordinaire, and she is going to share some things about the PRMS band and other things with us. Christy.
I just have about our band trip, so I just wrote some stuff, so I don't forget anything, and then I have some students that will tell you what they liked about the trip, and so. The PRMS Concert and Jazz Bands were finally able to use their invitations to Music Fest Canada this May. 45 students and 6 chaperones flew from Terrace to Niagara Falls. They went on the Niagara Hornblower cruise while they were soaked by the falls. Then they went on the Journey Behind the Falls, Clifton Hill, and the Greg Fruin Dinner Theater and Illusionist Experience. That was all on the first day. We have pictures to show as we talk too. There's no sound or anything, but I don't know.
Yeah, just a second, please.
Okay, so the next day was all about the music. The jazz band played at the music festival first and put on their best performance yet. Following their workshop, the adjudicator pulled me aside to tell me that we had been placed in the wrong category, and they thought the students were 17 and under. When she realized at the workshop that they were 13 and under, she had an assistant exchange what was going to be our silver award for gold. And when she handed it to me, she said, "You deserve gold and beyond."
Wow.
Following that, the concert band performed, and after a fantastic workshop by Janet Song Kim, they were also awarded gold. We went back to the hotel where the students celebrated their achievements with time at the pool. That evening, we attended a jazz dinner with 2 other high school groups where a young jazz combo played. A few of our students started to dance, which then turned into a giant conga line being initiated by one of our grade 6 students. After the impromptu dance, we went to a concert by the Central Band of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thursday morning, we checked out of our beautiful Falls View Hotel and went to Canada's Wonderland for the day. Students rode all the scariest roller coasters while I stuck to the bumper cars and less intense rides. Before leaving Toronto, we visited the CN Tower and took in the amazing views of Toronto and Lake Ontario. The students were great. It's a real art managing 45 kids in major airports. both Vancouver and Toronto. The chaperones were amazing. Steve Berry, Marco Kessler, Sarah Burgess, Natasha Brown, and Sandy Jones all deserve gold medals as well. The highlights for me from this trip included the joy and excitement the students had throughout the entire trip, the sense of pride they showed after finally being able to attend a festival and exceeding my expectations. And the pride we felt from the entire community while we were still away, and even more upon our return. Their success resonated throughout their families, their school, the school district, and the entire community. The lessons students learned about working together towards a common goal, helping each other, solving conflicts, being away from their families, and being kind to strangers. They learned a lot about life. It was a super life experience. They kept us smiling. Music matters. These kids learned how to excel, and everyone should be so proud of them. The next time you're faced with budget cuts, I hope you will remember this. Please don't cut band. So we have 3 students here, and they'll share something that they enjoyed about the trip.
I just go on the first day. I can't believe how much you could do in 3 days. It was crazy. We finished one thing and did another thing right after. It was like.
Oh, you might want to, sorry, but you might want to watch this. I'm revealing what we got here. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, I can't believe how much we could do in like 3 days. In my opinion, the best thing, or my favorite thing we did was Canada's Wonderland. And it was great. I really want to thank Ms. Tillman for figuring all that stuff out and bringing us to Niagara Falls.
Okay, I love band, one of my greatest passions. My favorite thing was, Niagara Falls. I especially liked how a lot of us, we didn't really know each other when we went on the trip, and when we went on it, there's so many conversations that a lot of us, we still keep on contact, and it's just, band is now just one big group of people where we can all get along. It's like a safe space.
I enjoyed like everything about the trip. It was super fun. I also enjoyed learning about like other people. I was in a group with one of my friends, and then I didn't really know the other person in my group. And so I learned a lot about them, and now I'm friends with them. It was quite nice. And then we got like pins to hand out to people. That was super fun. I had a conversation with this person who used to live in Prince Rupert, and then I gave them a pin, and they're like, "Oh, I lived there and worked there for 10 years. I just moved to like Ontario." And I was like, "That is so cool. What a coincidence." Yeah.
Thanks.
Show us what you want.
Oh, okay. So this was our gold award for jazz band and
Gold award for concert band.
Wow, Trustee Horn.
I think it's fantastic that you've come and spoken to us and explained what you did and what the good parts about your trip to Ontario. And it's fantastic to hear you personalize it by saying things like, I now met this person from doing this. I now have confidence and in doing those kind of things from doing such a trip. That's fantastic to hear. Fantastic to hear that you guys did so well. That's really good. There was great news around the community, how good you've done. And I think it's great too that you get so much pride in what you've done. So that achievement is great. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee.
I believe there's some personal achievements or personal recognition that was left out of the conversation that maybe you'd like to share with the group.
What? Oh yeah, me and my friend Kiri Orton, I'm Ayla Hoffness. We won the honor award. I won the honor award for playing bass guitar in jazz band, and Kiri won the honor award for playing clarinet in concert.
Fantastic.
Trustee Dawson.
I also want to mention that the band also are excellent volunteers. They helped last January with the Sugar Shack. They worked hard. They were go getter. They were awesome. So thank you for that too.
Trustee Sanchez.
Congratulations, you know. It's not every day we get this type of thing coming from Prince Rupert, and I thought, oh my. And then I was at Conrad Tuesday, and I was amazed. I sat there and I swear that I was listening to, you know, somebody from, you know, on a tape. It was just fabulous, and not only that, all those kids, I couldn't believe it. Ms. Tillman, you did a lot for these kids. I mean, please don't leave us. It's wonderful, and it's just all the different things, and to see some of those kids, they were just there, just doing their thing, so thank you. Please continue to do the good work. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you for coming in on a sunny evening to share with us what you have done. Thank you for talking of your passion. Thank you for sharing your travels and your photos with us. And as the board said, we're also very, very proud of you. Thank you very, very much for coming and sharing with us tonight. Thank you.
Yeah. Skip soccer. Gee.
Hey,
If I volunteer something to add to that,
Please.
I'm a grandparent,
Right.
and I think this board should be aware that this community has sent a band to that national competition one other time. And they won a gold and a silver that time too, so you can be proud of your music staff.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may, our second presentation this month, we thought it was special because we won't see you for 2 months during the summer break, but Nancy Griffiths-Sainer is a teacher at Charles Hayes Secondary School, and she would like to present on, I would say, decolonizing French education, but you would correct me.
That's basically the umbrella under which we do everything in the French classroom. What I'm going to talk to you about today is the wonderful opportunity that the board, that my school, the federal French funding, and the PAC gave my French 12 students to take a field trip to Haida Gwaii. So I'm just going to, I know you're all very familiar with Haida Gwaii, but I'm going to give you a map so that when I talk about where we are, you can just glance at the map.
Thank you.
Yes. Slow down. I can make a good job.
Thank you.
Oh, would you like this one? Now, I need to put my thumb drive into the appropriate receptacle. What do you want?
Sorry?
Would you like me to share?
It's there?
Yeah.
I
You
don't
want me to share the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can begin, sure. Okay. Okay, do you want me to tap it when I'm ready to go, or?
I can do it. If you can
Okay,
give
I
me
can
signal.
just give
Yeah,
you-
there you go.
Okay, Dinesh, thank you. Am I standing? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm Nancy Griffiths Manor, and I teach core French and BC First Peoples 12 at Charles Heath Secondary School. And as part of my doctoral program, I requested of the Ministry of FINESC, of our District Indigenous Education Department, and our administration at Charles Hayes, if I could be allowed to modify the grade 12 core French program as it exists through the curriculum, the BC curriculum, so that its content was 100% based on the Haida Nation. And I got permission because I was keeping the big ideas and the curricular competencies. I did not have to have a board approved course or a locally developed course. And so once I got those permissions, I tried to put my dream into action, and I guess 3 years ago, I had my first French 12 that was all about the Haida Nation. We had a trip last year to go to a pole raising in August, but I only took one student because she was the only one available, and so we didn't need to do any fundraising. This year, 5 kids originally committed to go, but only 3 ended up going because of other commitments for male family commitments. So I'd like to share with you just some of our experiences in Haida Gwaii and why we went over as a field trip as opposed to just a holiday. So here, of course, is Haida Gwaii. And as you know, the top island, currently called Graham Island, is where most people go to visit. And the bottom half, Guayhanas, is a restricted area, so we did not go there. It has 3 levels of protection. It is a Haida heritage site, it is a provincial park, and it is a protected marine environment. You need to go on a tour and get, training in order to go to these protected areas. My students learned all about the villages of Guayhanas as part of my course, but we couldn't go there because it would have been an extra $2,000, I think, for us to take a tour through Guayhanas. So we stayed up in the northern part of the island. So here it is here, and as you can see from looking at your map. Can I have a show of hands, how many of you have taken a ferry over to Haida Gwaii? Almost everybody? Okay, well, as you know, if you take the ferry over from Prince Rupert, you go to Skidegum, which is here. Okay, and that is quite a distance from where we had our hotel, which is up here in Massett. So we went over with a male chaperone, because we had 2 boys coming, Dave Nichols, and his daughter, Mila came, and I came with my car, so there was no issue. We drove up here to Tillel and then over here, up this way to Port Clements, and then up to Massett. And I asked the kids if they'd like to camp, glam, or stay in a hotel. By far, all 3 said they wanted to stay in a hotel, as well as ask for donations. So we stayed in the Massett Ocean View Hotel. We spent a lot of time going up and down the west coast, the east coast, I'm sorry, of the island, looking at various, going to events and looking at various things. Okay, so the activities that we did, what we wanted to do was to learn about the Haida culture through our interactions with the land. And I think to learn is maybe not the verb I should have used there. It should be more that we wanted to see in action what we had learned in the classroom. Because the kids learned primarily how are the Haida worldviews reflected in Haida culture. That was basically the hypothesis of, of the course. And so we learned that their worldviews of family, of respect, community, and elders and story, deep respect for elders and story was reflected in their art, especially in their crest poles and in their weavings. And also the crest poles told the story of Haida activism
which is such an amazing example of the Haida commitment, decades long, to reconciliation. And that's why it's such an important course, I think, or not my course, but important information for every BC student to learn. How individual nations support reconciliation and have way before the TRC recommendations. And we also did our learning through not only visiting the land, but also visiting a school, having a tour of a school, and of course the museum. And another very important point of us going was to have fun and to fall in love with Haida Gwaii. I wanted the kids to feel the way I do about Haida Gwaii, that you go over as a stranger, you are welcomed with open arms by the Haida communities. You are encouraged to feel that Haida Gwaii is yours now, that you have a stake in it, that your heart can belong there, and that you will come over again and again, and you'll bring your parents, you'll bring your family. And this is really what I wanted for them, to have a transformative trip. So we have Brock Rodecki on the right. Brock doesn't appreciate his picture being taken, so you won't see his face in any of the pictures. Michael Nye is on the left, and there's Mila Nickel and her dad. And this is in the extensively large dining room of the Ocean View Hotel. And I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I highly recommend that hotel. Doesn't look like much from the outside, but the inside, the rooms are like as big as this area here for one person. Anyway. Okay, there we are eating, free breakfast. Okay, so our hotel was just a 3-minute walk from this view of the Mass Harbor. And it was a 3-minute drive from my daughter-in-law's mom's house. So we went there to visit. Who knows the ground? Yes, we had a lovely time. We had many visits to the ground to get their famous coffees, and for the kids to buy shirts and locally made earrings and et cetera, et cetera. Here we are at the Surf Shack, which is another very popular spot in Massett with Dave and Michael. And of course, we picked up some swag for our loved ones. Yeah, we were lucky enough to be there during the Massett market, and everyone bought a lot of local things and talked to a lot of local people, including these beautiful things like these homemade soaps beautifully displayed. And it was also Harbor Days when we were there, which is like Massett's Sea Fest. So there was a parade and there were hamburgers being served at the fire hall, and everyone was out on the streets. We had a lot of fun times when we were there, including a lot of bathroom shots. For some reason, the kids wanted to go into every public bathroom that we could find, and we would all go in there and take pictures of us in the bathroom. So there we were. There might be another one that pops up. And then there's Michael and Dave eating the hamburgers at the Harbor Days in Massett. We did an immense amount of trail walking as well. We found lots of secret things that we didn't know were there, like this fire pit with built-in benches, who knows how old that is, and this hut. And we had a lot of fun trying to imagine who built it and why. And there were lots of little places, roots that had grown over, and then the ground had, fallen away underneath, and the kids had a lot of fun exploring. And again, look at the absolutely gorgeous moss formations on the trees. When we're on the trails, and I told the kids that this would be happening, there's a lot of signage. And a lot of it is in English and in Haudahil, which is the Northern Island Haida language, which gave me a lot of inspiration and ideas for what I might be able to bring to Roberta or perhaps to Herb about how we could have this sort of signage on our trails. And again, the beautiful moss formations on the trail. And of course, we went to Tow Hill and Nicoon Park. We had learned a great deal about Tow Hill, or Tau, as in the Haida language. And there are several stories, sacred Haida Adao, about Tau, who is personified through this mountain. And we learned the version that was put together in claymation by Jolin Edenshaw, who is a very prolific carver, artist, writer, cinematographer. He was quite involved in On the Edge of the Knife, which was the Haida movie that came out a couple of years ago. So there, and of course, we found a canoe that had been abandoned. We did not believe that that was one of the ancient abandoned canoes, but I was able to tell the kids the story of how my daughter-in-law had taken me to a Haida canoe that is not known by off-islanders. It's not the hidden canoe that the tourists go to, but a different one. And I remember stupidly asking her, well, it's almost finished. Why didn't they just portage it to the ocean? She said, well, smallpox. And that's where it really hit home for me. I had kind of forgotten about that. So anyway, there's another view through, I think, Dave, Nickel and I thought that this whole area had been put together as a wedding chapel in recent times, recently. And this was like a little altar because there were wooden seats all around it. And I'd never seen this before, and it was really fun. So anyway, there's Toe Hill from the other side. Now, I have to tell you, there's Michael and Mila. I said, let's pose for this because I'm going to show this picture to whomever is interested, and that was their pose. They were so silly and giggly all the time. But anyway, so this is when you're halfway up and you're looking towards Roseville. And then this is when you're all the way up and you're looking the other way. Yeah. Everywhere you look, there is signage, some completely in English and some in English and Chabkil, that explains the sacred stories that are connected to the land that you are on. And we had learned these stories ahead of time, and then when we were actually there, it was very moving for everyone, including myself. And there's Tao and his elder brother. That's the story that we know, but it has a different ending. So we had a big discussion about the nature of oral sacred stories and how the Tao stories could be so different. But a story we hear from Mr. Campbell is absolutely 100% unchanged from when he heard it as a boy, from when his father heard it as a boy, and the differences between the passing down of oral tradition in the Tsimshian tradition and the Haida tradition. So that was a cool compare and contrast that we were able to do. Here we are at the blowhole, which is actually just this way a little bit. And I took a picture of the kids. That's all sea foam. Lovely. And then I sent this one to my husband. I had to be in there somewhere. Yeah. Okay. And they're just loving it. I think this is one of their favorite parts. This is the Yakalanda's pole that went up at High Ellen. And I don't know if anyone stayed at the Longhouse or in the cabins at High Ellen. They are a whole other PowerPoint presentation. They're absolutely beautiful. I helped to raise this pole with my daughter-in-law Vanessa back in 2017. And Christian White, who was the partner, and his team came up by canoe, by a huge Haida canoe, up to the shore, and all walked to help raise this pole. It was very moving. So I took the kids here, and we had already learned in class what each of the crests meant and why they were in the order that they were in. But we also found, Dinesh, don't mind, that there was lots of explanation that was right there at the pole. So I was able to say to them, do you remember this or that crest? Do you understand where it is? Can you pick it out? How do you know that something is an eagle as opposed to a raven? And they knew all about that, which was kind of cool. And here we are. Where are we? Where are we, Kate?
Oh, it looks like you're in Toel.
We're at North Beach.
Oh, Agate Beach.
Might be agate, where you find 0 agates. I think that this is, that was actually North Beach, and then this is the river that comes up into the sea there, and everyone was playing all that long. Okay, I'm walking along North Beach. Nice view. Okay, so as I say, we did a lot of trail walking, we did a lot of rock collecting, everyone brought back tons of driftwood, tons of shells. We did a lot of talking about how we felt and how we felt with our connection to the land, how the Haida people were making us feel, but we also had to do a little schoolwork, even though these kids had already passed French 12. But I didn't let them know that I wasn't really allowed to give them schoolwork now. So they were with Madame Gizet, they knew they had work to do. So this is the high school in Dodgy Heats, and I had arranged with their principal, Devlin Bradley, if we could come for a tour. And he said, the Friday that you want to come, which is the 19th of May, is our pro deeds, a perfect time to come. So there were 2 crest poles, and this was a little awkward. But there were 2 crest poles, and one of them had a raven and one of them had an eagle, because those are the 2 moieties of the Haida people. And so Devlin was explaining how a Haida carver, if he's raven, can only carve eagles. And if he's an eagle, can only carve ravens. And all the kids came to me within the next 5 minutes and said, you know, that's not true from all of the Yinchon polls. And I'm like, just leave it, just leave it. But that in fact is not the case. And I double checked that with a Haida matriarch. And depending on the purpose of the poll, a raven can carve a raven can carve an eagle and a raven. If it's for the community, both crests should be on. But anyway, we don't argue with our local friends. So, and of course, that's not Devlin, that's Mike. So I was inspired by the high school in Dodgen Keats. They, everywhere that you look, it is saturated with indigeneity in such a way that it doesn't feel like the school was originally built and then Indigenous elements were put on after, but rather the whole thing sprung from Indigenous roots right from the foundation on up. And Robert Davidson has a very strong connection to this high school. Original prints of his are just littered everywhere. And of course, if I wanted to buy an original anything from Robert Davidson, I would have to sell my house and cash in my pension and borrow $1 million. So it's really something. And it's a beautiful high school. One of the projects that they did is that they made paddles in woodworking class, and the paddles were only about this big. And then they had students paint the paddles. And then they placed the paddles on the wall between pictures of elders. And that's something that I want to talk to Ben Barak about, who's going to be our new woodshop guy, and I want to talk to Carla about in September. Could we possibly do something like this? And I asked permission from Devlin. I said, may I please steal that idea? But of course, we wouldn't do anything Haida. We would do Tsimshian or perhaps a non-Indigenous design. And he said, absolutely, this school is for everyone. So, and there's another view. And then he treated us to lunch, which was homemade hamburger soup and fresh caught salmon sandwiches made by their cook. And it was, and then several teachers came and sat with us. I sat with the French teacher, and we're going to collaborate next year because this is the first time he's taught core French. And I'm like, why is core French being taught in Haida Gwaii? This makes no sense to me. And he says, can you help? And I said, of course, whatever I can do. Okay. And then we went to the Haida Heritage Museum, and there it is from the outside. I made an appointment for us to go and pay in advance to get a canoe tour. And then when we showed up at 2 o'clock on the Friday, after we'd done our tour at the high school, I go in there, and there's a gentleman behind the counter, and I said, hi, I'm Nancy Griffin-Zanner from Charles Gay Secondary. We have a tour at 2 o'clock. And he goes, darn, you showed up. And I'm like, and I was too. And he said, no one's here but me. I'm like, we can cancel. It's okay. We'll just go around the museum. He goes, no, well, thank you. And so he started the canoe tour and telling us all about how the canoes are carved and how the Haida canoes are different from other canoes. My kids all knew this, but it was so cool to be at these canoes that were partially carved, fully carved. And then our friend got into it and he gave us a full hour tour. Because after about 10 minutes, he was like, I don't know what else to tell you. I said, okay, we can go back in. There was an All Islands art show, which was very, very nice at the museum, which we looked at. And then, of course, that was so beautiful, I had to just show it in. There's a gorgeous view of the inlet, Massett Inlet there. 2 of those girls came with us from the Dodgen Keats High School. They just were like, we're coming. And the principal said, okay, they can go. The shorter girl in the center is Rihanna, and the girl in the burgundy is CJ. And they both have worked in the museum, so they were telling us all kinds of stuff. It was really great. And then we went into Dodgen Keats. Who's been to Funkit? I dropped a pretty penny there, I will tell you. It is well known for having funky stuff. And we went to Gather, which is it's quite an expensive restaurant, but the kids had $200 spending money from the generous fundraising and donations, and so they were able to buy. Is that all there is? Oh, okay. Sorry, I put it together like an hour ago. So I'm sorry that was a little over my time. I think that if I was going to judge whether or not it was a success, the kids had a wonderful time. So in that way, it was a success. There was no issue, there was no hiccup, and there was no problem. And we all got along super well. But what I wanted to have the kids experience, as I said earlier, was a transformative learning experience that when you go to someone else's land and you are witnessing an area that is completely saturated with culture. Do you feel it in your heart? Do you take it into yourself or not? Right? And those kids were so sad the night before we left. They said, I don't want to go. I wish we could stay. I want to go back to the blowhole. I want to just sit and look at the water. I'm going to miss this or that person. I want to bring my mom here. And I said to them, do you feel that Haida Gwaii is kind of yours now? Do you feel that it's in your heart a little bit? Absolutely, yes. So in that way, I feel that the most important thing was accomplished, that we had a little bit of transformative learning. And now when the kids go off, because they've graded and they'll go off wherever they go in September, they will have that base from which they can continue their reconciliation journey, their decolonization journey, and new people that they meet and new courses they take. Perhaps they'll have a slightly different viewpoint. Their minds will be shifted slightly to embrace a more Indigenous worldview. So in that way, the trip was a lot of fun and it was successful. So anyway, thank you. I was really only supposed to go 5 minutes.
How long to stay? I mean,
Just from the 18th to the 24th.
okay, yeah, we went on 3 days.
Yeah.
One tour. It was very good. We were also able to, get the clams. And
Yeah,
I had clams too on the beach.
that would have been my
Really
dream.
good.
Because I've been in a situation where we went crabbing, like with our hands and
Yeah.
just our jeans rolled up. And then we built a fire and ate the crabs on the beach.
That's right.
And that's really quite an experience, but it was red tide.
Oh, okay.
So there was no clam digging, but the kids were able to see where all the clam holes were and what was going on. And they saw a lot of fish in different scenarios. So,
Really nice.
but we were beholden by the ferry schedule. So it was a Thursday to Tuesday.
Yeah.
I didn't want the kids to have to miss too much of grade 12
Okay.
because we went on a pro D and then it was Victoria Day. So it was handy that way. And we didn't have enough money to stay any longer anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic that you took the initiative and put this together. Thank you very much for doing that.
Oh, thank you, but it was a real labor of love, and I think I would have been very, very sad if any of the higher ups from the ministry on down had said, no, you can't give a course about the Haida people in Prince Rupert. And I was, I really was vetted very carefully by Joanne Crona at FNESC. Because I know her because she and I used to teach together at PRSS, and then I've worked a lot with FNESC on their materials. And the first thing she asked was, have you cleared this with Wapsigagat? And I said, I'm talking to you first, because if you say no, there's no point in me speaking to anybody else. Now, I was already working on the curriculum with the ministry in Victoria when I got the idea, so way back before the curriculum came out. And I said, what do I need to do if I want to do this? And they laid it out for me. And then I took it to FNESC, and they really, as they should have, put me through quite a series of questions about my motivations and why don't I give an in-depth sort of saturated course on the Tsimshian people. And so I gave them all my reasonings. And they said, if it's okay with Wapsigagat, it's okay with us. So then I went to Wapsigagat and I explained all of that and I got permission from Roberta. And then I went to my administrators because there's no reason to go to the administrator to say, can I do this thing that might insult many people? The administrator is immediately going to say, you need to go to the people who might be worried about it. So I tried to do that first. And then I went to Charles Hayes and they said, if it's okay with the powers that be and it is not straying from the intent of the curriculum, then let's give it a shot. Yes, trustee Pucci.
I'm just wondering how long that process took from your thought inception and working.
Oh, I took 3 years.
3 years.
3 years, because I also took a year off to go teach at SFU. And I taught a lot in this room, actually, for the PLP program. Yeah, And so everything in my studies was delayed by a year. But Charles Hayes was incredibly supportive, and I took a lot that I learned from teaching BC First Peoples 12 and brought those strategies and techniques into the French 12. We couldn't do as much, something like this is more of an immersion thing that you can, because it's like a social studies.
Yeah, that's
thing.
what I was gonna worry about, how this.
Yeah,
process-
exactly. So if this was French immersion, then I could talk all about the Haida in French. But we had people zooming in with us. We had carvers zooming in with us, and we were watching TED Talks from Michael Yaklanis, all of which was in English. So we would prep in French. We would, and I would give them all kinds of vocab. We would have our Zoom interviews or watch the TED Talks in English and then talk about it again in French. But we were able to go to the Blowhole and to Toe Hill and talk about the intertidal zone and the humpbacks and orcas frolicking along the shoreline. And the two-finned killer whale, which is the crest of the Atlantis clan, all in French, because those were things we did over and over and over. But we took that vocabulary and used it instead of Fifi with her croissant and her poodle and her charcuterie. No offense, Danielle. But we took all the grammar and all the structure and the verbs that the kids needed to know, and we just used that content. So I think if the kids took any kind of a French test, if there was a French provincial, there would be some content they wouldn't know, but a whole pile that maybe other kids wouldn't know. And to be able to talk, I think, in French about how to reconciliation, in my opinion, now at this point in my life in 2023, is maybe more important than to talk about the difference between a boulangerie and a patisserie in a village in France. It's just a titch more relevant. Not everyone agrees with me. I'm in touch provincially with a lot of French teachers through BCATML, and a lot of them do not agree at all. They think it's chipping away at the foundation of French teaching. My view is, if you're going to teach a language of colonization, and here's where, Andrew, your topic that you thought I was talking about comes in. If you're going to be teaching a language of colonization like French in Prince Rupert, its impetus has to be to support local Indigenous culture and the connection to the land, while still hitting all of the important points of the curriculum. And my former administrator 100% supported me. She was just amazing. My current administrator has been extremely well. Sigrid Gatt has been very supportive, and my students have really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and I'm sorry I took up so much time, and it's hard for me to stop once I get going.
Thank you so much for sharing the backstory as well, the 3 years, all of
That's
that you
important
had to
for us to understand
process,
too, but yeah.
but how you were so thoughtful, mindful, your passion, knowing and understanding proper protocol and sharing that with us as well. So thank you so much for your
Oh, you're very
presentation.
Because this doesn't come together.
Absolutely.
It didn't, and it's improved every year,
Yeah,
right?
yes, totally.
And Dinesh, I'm just gonna grab my thumb drive.
Thanks, Ness.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you. Happy summer.
Thanks.
Wonderful. Approval of the minutes of the open board meeting. Trustee Horn, the seconder. Trustee Meyer, all in favor? So moved. Great.
Aye.
Necessity of the closed meeting and agenda. Mover, trustee Horn, seconded trustee Meyer. All in favor? So moved.
Aye.
Correspondence to the board, 6.11 and 6.2. 6.2.1. Sorry, just a quick before I move, get you, this, sorry, we've already passed minutes. Ever, is it possible?
Kate, we can actually not hear you very well, thanks.
Okay, sorry, I know we've already passed the minutes of the board, however, just for clarity, 9.3, would it make sense to put February 2024 for what was shared by trustee Meyer?
I didn't hear, that's why I'm asking, because I didn't hear it, hon.
And so we're gonna just note that if possible. So now, 6.2.1, wishes of the board. Trustee Horn.
Receive and file on the first letter, it talks about, the engine meeting motion.
Seconder. Trustee Pucci. Would anyone else like to speak to that? All in favor? So
Aye.
moved. 6.2.2.
Receive and file, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Trustee Sanchez, would you like to speak to that? Trustee Horn?
Yes, both this letter and the following one. Talk about issues where the board in Kootenai wishes to alter the way the government does things. So, and the first one is to do with autism and the way that they're funding, they're asking for funding for the teachers to learn, even though the bill doesn't say that. And the second one is a motion that the board advocate for a change in the way that childcare centers are named, so that the funding will be different. Both these things shouldn't, I don't think should come from a board. It should have gone to BCSDA so that all the trustees could discuss it.
Yes.
And then have a motion made into BCSDA. Should that be the wishes of all the trustees?
So we currently have a motion on the floor to receive and file,
Well, second.
and it has been seconded.
Yeah.
And that you just wanted that.
Yeah,
noted?
let's say that, yeah.
Wonderful.
Fully
Thank you.
agree, James.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? All in favor? So moved. Thank you. 6.2.3. That is the one you.
Oh, that's the one, yeah, this is like, that's the
So
second.
I would motion as receive and file as well.
Seconder, trustee Dalton. Would you care to speak to that? Or you already did? Thank you. All in favor? Wonderful. Approved. 6.2.4, trustee Horn.
I'll group together 6.2.4, 6.3.5. 6.3.6, 6.2. So those three together.
Wonderful. And which
Receive
is,
and file.
thank you, seconded, trustee Pucci. Did you care to speak to that? Thank you.
Only because it's from BCSDA, thanking the different people in the different areas for their work for students.
True. All in favor? So moved. 6.2.7. Does the board, trustee Pucci?
I'll do a receive and file.
All right, seconded. Trustee Dalton, would you care to speak to that?
No.
Trustee Horn?
Yeah, on this one, again, it's a motion that the AGM has made already. And it's this letter just to confirm to the Teachers Federation that what the motion is and what they're doing about it. So
Thank you. All in favor? Wonderful. Thank you. Superintendent of Schools report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On page 24 of your package, you'll see our school field trips for the last half of last month and up to date.
Any questions?
There being no questions, enrollment, I turn the floor to Sandra Pond, our Director.
Thank you. So enrollment went up by 1 this month. We're at 1,811 students, which is reflected on the graph in your package.
I actually have a question about that, Kate, Madam Chair. So I'm just kind of curious. I'd sort of like, and I'm not asking because I don't want to put more stress on the limited staff we have, but I'd actually like to get that breakdown when possible of how many people are in each of the elementary schools and in the high school. Just for our record, because like, you know, we hear there's 811 students or 900 students. I'd sort of like to know how many students are in each of these schools, please.
Trustee Horn?
I'd suggest that we make that a one time per season or year, sorry, season, where that came from. Per year, so that we don't overburden you with working. I think one time for the year would split it out and that'd be good enough. I would
Yeah,
think.
because it's only moved one or two.
Would that sound-
I'm
sound
pretty
good?
sure our data, James, I'm pretty sure, like, I've talked to other school districts. It's pretty, like, it's at hand. How many people, how many students we have in each of our elementary versus our high school. It's not like, that we're asking something that is actually overburdening our staff. We know how many students are in each of our schools. That's calculated in our data. So I don't think that I'm asking something that other schools aren't getting out there. I've already talked to other schools. I just sort of need to figure out where we're going with our future planning. I just would like to know how many students we have in each of these categories so that we know when we come to budget time, you know, like, what are we expecting? What is our classroom sizes, our composition? Just because I think it's all in our database. That's all I'm asking. I don't think I'm asking for too much.
Thank you, trustee Beal, and I
Thank
saw
you.
a head. Thank you, and I saw a head nod that it wasn't, and also for planning, if the majority of our students are in high school, that is really great information for us to know of what our trend will be. And I have our superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we can provide a summary. And we'll continue with the explanations as well, because sometimes the numbers don't tell you the whole story. So they're always, we always have to be cognizant of that we need to tell you what's behind those numbers.
And I would say that I do have that data. I have a chart that I keep every month, so it's very easy.
Thank you.
Back to me.
So thank you so much for that.
So in addition to what you heard, under 7.1.3, you heard about band trips and you heard about trips to Haida Gwaii this evening. There's a lot going on in our schools. You saw the list of field trips, but this is a month of celebrations. We have a lot of things going on with sports days, field trips, family days at Diana Lake. We also have National Indigenous ceremonies tomorrow, and Chair Toy and I will be speaking, and a large number of our staff has worked very, very hard for many weeks to prepare for the celebration at the rec center tomorrow. And CHSS students are writing their literacy 10 and 12 and numeracy 10 assessments this week. And through early learning, which is supervised by Indigenous Education Department, we also did the welcome to kindergarten sessions over the last few weeks. At this point, we have 6 children registered for the Conrad Seamless Day program, and we have 7 for the Pine Ridge Before and After School Care program. Parents are continuing to register, and numbers are expected to increase for both programs by the start of school in September. Schools have been taking advantage of the warm weather and have been doing a lot of place-based learning outdoors. And of course, we had the opening of the garden at Conrad Elementary. You probably saw our postings on the website. Also, the new reporting order, we have some information that we will be posting to our website if it's already there. And the ministry will be posting additional information. We actually have a circular that we're asking all of our schools to send home in their newsletters this month as well. With report cards. Correct. And that is my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Trustee Horn?
What time are you guys speaking at tomorrow's event in the arena?
Noon.
Thank you. Yeah,
No, we're speaking at noon. I believe it starts at 11:30.
that's at 11, good speaking.
Okay.
We didn't do it yet.
Any further questions? Wonderful. Thank you. Secretary Treasurer report.
All right, so you have your 2 regular expenditure reports, expenditures by program and expenditures by category. I'll just open it up for any questions.
We're on page 36.
I just have one quick question. It looks like we're trending in the right direction. So I hope that I know that you probably haven't reconciled last month's, but I would suggest that we're probably close to target, Brittany.
Yeah, it's looking good.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Horn?
I have a question about page 37. Are we doing that next?
Is that part out? I
Oh,
believe
that
that's
is
out.
part of this?
Yes.
So we can do that now.
Yes.
I know that principal, vice principals has 6.1% remaining. Will we fall below the budgeted amount by the end? And then EAs have a lot remaining, we'll probably move over. So explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think we've talked about this in prior meetings too. It's just, basically the average used for EAs. It wasn't
What
average
was
at the
it?
time.
Yeah, okay.
But then if you look down at the total operating expenses, you can see that we still have 12% remaining. So overall, our budget's looking okay.
Right. Thank you.
No further questions. We can move on to 8.2. Operations Department report.
And just again, open that up for any questions.
Trustee Horn?
I think it's great to see that we have students doing work experience within our district. That's fantastic. Thank you, James, for doing that. And also good to see the increased use of the bus. Right? We had a big discussion on the board for a long time about that bus. It's great that you get to use it more and for outdoor learning, so the kids get to go out and do things. So that's fantastic. So we're making use of what we.
No additional cost of the district.
But no different.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to say too, I think it's really good that you're highlighting achievements that we've made in this report. And not just saying things that go wrong.
Plenty of those.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much. I would love to build on it. 211 trips. That is absolutely
Yeah.
incredible. Great.
We were surprised actually by the end of the year, when we looked at it, we counted 187 to begin with, and then 2 weeks later, we're over 200. This is amazing. Well, the justification's right there in year one.
Yeah.
Great. 8.3, Information Technology Department report.
Opening it up for any questions.
Trustee Horn?
They could be going first all the time.
No, you don't.
No issues with the networks. We must have done something to make that happen.
Well, we're constantly monitoring what happens into the different various ones, so we have not received any incidents in any of the switches or the service has been down, so this is always good. Also, we try to put if there is an power outage which for an extended period of time, which could have impact the schools which we are not.
So you, in other words, you prepare. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Okay, perfect. Well, and I'd like to say as well, you, in your report, you're highlighting the achievements we've made. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Trustee Dalton and then Trustee Pucci.
Yes, I was thinking, since this is the Information Technology Department, I was just wondering if there's something that we could set up so that we can hear people a little bit better, maybe a mic here or maybe a mic there. So that maybe I'm the only one, but I'd like to hear things. That would be good, I think.
Get closer.
We should have that. Slap.
I would just say thank you for the reminder, and please feel free to encourage me to continue to raise my voice.
That's great, but I think this would be a great, this is the technology department. We must have something hanging around like a mic.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I will take a look what we can.
Thank you so
do
much.
and,
Appreciate that.
Trustee Pucci.
Actually, for director of learning, I know with the amount of input that we gotta put into that website, is there a point in which we think we need to start budgeting for a website upgrade? I just know that there's more and more
need for us to be posting and then, and so just again, where that, because, you know, I'm not saying today, tomorrow, but the idea is that should you maybe give us a heads up that we need to start thinking about website development again?
Yeah, thank you, trustee. We are actually, in fact, looking at the pilot project right now about the improvement of our website. As you likely said, the increased amount of data that we're putting out and constant regular updates. So we're in fact looking at that and in our next summer, we are trying to do the proof of concept, see how we can better improve the website again.
Yeah, and to keep us aware, because again, as you know, budget, but it is an important piece and we're willing to support, we just need to be able to plan.
Thank you, very much.
Any other questions regarding the technology department report? Not seeing any. 8.4. Moving to 5Bs.
Okay, any questions?
Trustee Dalton.
Yes, I'm just wondering, when we're talking about bulk purchase, is it per unit within the bulk? We're looking K to 2, $30,
Right.
or what?
So if I had a student going to Conrad who was in kindergarten, I would pay the office $30 and there would be my supplies, not including runners and a few other items, but enough that they, like their pencil, crayons, whatever they're needed for that grade.
Thank you. Thank you.
I actually have a question because this is a policy change. Do we not have to make a motion because we are changing the policy? Andrew,
Correct. We need a motion for.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, trustee Beal. Would you like to share your motion with us?
I actually can't see it, Kate, because my iPhone went down and now I'm just on landline. So I would just make a motion that that the policy be accepted as presented.
Thank you. And I had seconded by trustee Pucci and trustee Horn.
What is the change? So that
The prices.
what we've made, yeah. Is it a price change?
Price?
I just know we have to approve the policy each year, but.
Yes.
Probably a price change, and in that case, it's a price change, yeah.
Thank you.
That's a
8.
motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, yes, and is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. So moved. 8.5, 2023-24 major capital projects.
So these are the same two projects that were on the list last year. Any questions?
We do need a motion for this one.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
I have trustee Warren.
Such a motion.
Wonderful. Seconded trustee Pucci. Would you like to speak to your motion? Okay, all in favor? So moved. Is that complete? Thank you very much for your report. Finance and Building Committee, trustee Beal, would you like that to go to trustee Meyer or trustee Pucci?
Actually, trustee Meyer, sorry, I apologize. I was unable to, I was in air, couldn't make it.
No worries. Just get the
Thank you, Christy.
No problem. The minutes are on page 43 of your package. I don't know if anybody has any questions. It's not a lot there.
43.
We do not have.
We don't have them in here, don't think.
They're right.
I got him
So
here.
you have them there. Oh, nice.
Is that finance and building, Christie?
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, it's not. I'm sorry. Don't know what I was, hold on.
They're not in this.
They're not in the packet that I think.
Shall.
Well, I give you no minutes. So you have no questions and we'll have to.
What I do know is what went out was our, was that expenditure report.
Mhm.
And that was all that went out from those minutes.
Right, right, maybe that's wrong, because it was our expenditure report, which is on page 36 that we already talked about.
Yes, thank you. 9.2, trustee Horn, framework for enhanced student learning.
I don't believe we met this time around.
Provincial council, trustee Meyer.
Yes, I am hoping to, so there was no real, nothing came out of BCSTA since our last meeting. But I was hoping that I could make a motion to submit a letter to BCSTA and FINESC, and the Ministry of Education and Childcare to get an update on our 2022 AGM motion that we put forth.
Yes, thank you.
I'll second that.
I have a seconder, trustee Pucci. Do you care to speak further to that motion, trustee Meyer?
Quickly, just that, we put a motion through in 2022 that we wanted Indigenous representation on the board. And we were leaving it up to those three committees to come up with some sort of plan. I know that they were scheduled to meet June 3rd. I have heard nothing. There's nothing on, I just checked the motion website and there was nothing on there. And yeah, I would just like to know, it's been a year.
Wonderful, thank you. Trustee Horn?
I believe, I don't mean to correct you, but I believe it was for all boards, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm motion, yeah. Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Thank you.
Thank you.
9.4 Indigenous Education Council meeting. I can report on this and it was a fulsome, very informative, very well attended meeting. We met for 3 hours and went actually on to another hour, and I think we could have stayed longer. There was so much information shared, so many celebrations. And to share a few of topics, we spoke about the changing possibilities for young learners. We spoke about the middle development instrument data, the well-being index, social and emotional learning. We shared about how well attended any professional development that our Indigenous education is part of, how well attended, and quickly fill out those professional development opportunities are. Shared about the book club that happens within our district, the book study, sorry, and this year the book study was Picking Up the Pieces, which is about the witness blanket. And as we were the only district, I believe in the north, that hosted the witness blanket, it was very, I believe it would have been a very beneficial book study regardless, but having had that in our on our traditional territory and to continue, and this what was spoke about was continuing to deepen the learning, the lens of resurgent resiliency, reconciliation. It was also shared that book is a great example of an authentic resource. It was shared of all of the work that went into it by the author. Also, as was we spoke about, I asked Christy Reese if I could share that their Head Start proposal has been approved through its initial stages. And what that is looking at is a completion of the year 2026 with 8 infant toddler spaces, as well as 16 3 to 5 year olds. And what I do know is that our Head Start comes into our schools, and that currently, as soon as you're pregnant, you go on the wait list. So that's exciting news for our community. Also, that was shared about all the field trips that are coming up, that the Petla Trail is reopened, and our district is going to be able to take opportunities to be part of that. And also, I really would love to share that we are a complete unique district in that our language authority is no other district has a language authority nested into it the way our Indigenous Education Department does. It is a totally complete and separate entity. However, it is woven throughout our district, as you can see, and how well resourced we are with that language authority. Andrew or Roberta would like to share anything else, I'd be open for, but it was a very wholesome meeting, I felt.
Hi, everyone. The only thing I have to add is that we had a 3-day boot camp, I guess, on digitization and archiving, bringing our Semitic language to a higher sophisticated level. And Dinesh really helped us and supported us with that. We had 3 guests come in from First Peoples Cultural Council. They're the language hub for BC. So that's quite exciting. And it really gives us a peace of mind that our language is being protected more and more.
Thank you. And also to
And-
reiterate. Sorry. go
Sorry,
ahead.
and did you know Indigenous celebration date tomorrow starts at 12?
Oh, great, thank you. And I did wanted to share that again, as well as our superintendent did. Tomorrow is National Indigenous Peoples Day, and there is a full day of celebration, I believe, until 8:30 at our Civic Center tomorrow. Lots of entertainment, dancing. I saw the day and it looks wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody. Policy Committee. Trustee Horn.
Thank you, Chair. There's no policies for approval, as there were none came through from the last meeting. So staff took the initiative to make a new policy, which I'd like to bring before the board to discuss. Can I have you explain that, please, Andrew?
Right, so, yeah. So what we did is we have a number of policies regarding computer devices. And it's now becoming bigger with the blurring lines between what is a computer and what is a cell phone. And handheld devices such as iPads are not necessarily a laptop, but there's also there's a Microsoft device called the Surface Pro. So we just thought that we would update our policies to include all types of devices and of course the safety that goes along with that because of things like cyberbullying.
Thank you. So I would ask if the board has any questions on this, if you wish to discuss. We would just, the board, the committee thought that because it's new and you haven't seen it before, that perhaps the board should have a chance to question what the committee has done. So if the board has any questions before this gets then made to be sent out to stakeholders.
And that wasn't gonna happen. as well. Was that not right?
We were gonna hold.
Can I
it.
ask you a question, a
Yes.
procedure question?
and
Can I ask a procedure question, please?
Yes,
So,
trustee Dees, and before you do that, I just want to share with you, this is not going out at this time. The committee just wanted to bring it to the board and then we would revisit it in September. Please go ahead.
so what I was gonna ask Kate is this actually, like, I mean, I'm not sure why it's on here if we're not actually sending it to our stakeholders. I mean, it should be reviewed prior to. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Right, so trustees, this is a new policy and what what the committee decided was it would go to the tech steering committee for review because they have not had a chance to look at it. So we wanted to give them a chance to look at it. And of course, we have trustees have representation on that committee as well.
Thank you for that. Back to you, trustee Horn.
And seeing no questions on that, we'll move on to make a motion for 2110 policy staff recruitment and retention and 1430 district support committee to send the policies for review.
Would you like to do them one at a time or?
No, I think do
Okay,
them both
great.
together.
So we have a motion, seconded trustee Gucci. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, but you can see in the right up in the that with the changes that have been made to these two policies. If anybody has any questions, please bring forward. And
Would anyone
seeing-
else like to speak to this motion? All right, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Wonderful. Thank you so
Aye.
much. Thank you for that, trustee Horn. District Technology Steering Committee, trustee Horn.
Thank you, yeah, last time I marked this one up because we had a meeting. I'll double check this time before I say. We had no meeting, correct? Oh, thank goodness, I got them right this time.
Thank you, trustee Horn. Any old business? Not seeing any. Wonderful new business, 11.1, and this is where we made the amendment. This is that our existing bylaw was the proposed bylaw. So the dates that we will be meeting are the third Tuesday, 2023, 2024. 11.2 daycare lease bylaw.
Chair Toy, I believe this is the, we are required to approve this bylaw each year. As we have people leasing property for childcare in our district.
Thank you, and I will pass this back to the Finance and Building Committee, I believe, to read this bylaw. Trustee Horn,
I make a motion that we make all 3 readings in one.
a seconder to that motion. Trustee Pucci, would you like to speak to that motion? Wonderful. Would someone from the Building and Finance Committee care to read this motion? Trustee Pucci?
Can I still ask my job?
We should vote on that motion.
Oh,
Yeah, you gotta vote and then I can do the reading.
for you to.
To read all 3 readings.
Oh, we
Vote on
did,
that.
we did, right? You both, you made the
No,
motion. You
We never voted.
No.
Oh, sorry. All in favor to read 3 times? Thank you very much. Trustee Pucci?
Lease of property bylaw number 20232401. Whereas the board may exercise a power with respect to the lease of property or an interest in property on only bylaw. And whereas the Westview Child Care Society operates a preschool, the hub, daycare, and before and after school care programs at a Cole Roosevelt Park Community School, a daycare at Lahane Elementary, and before and after school care program at the Booth Operations Building. Now, therefore be, and it is hereby resolved that the board grant a lease of classrooms and other spaces to Westview Child Care Society for a term of 1 year commencing on September 1, 2023 and ending on August 31, 2024 at the rent and on the terms provided to members of the board with such minor amendments as are satisfactory to the secretary treasurer of the board, and that the secretary treasurer of the board execute the lease on behalf of the board. This bylaw may be cited as school district number 52 Prince Rupert lease of property bylaw number 20232401. Read on 20th of June, 2023.
A seconder for that. Trustee Dalton, thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Pucci?
Lease of property bylaw.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, thank you. Trustee Veal, all in favor? Thank you very much.
Aye.
Lease of property bylaw number 20232401, whereas the board may exercise a power with respect to the lease of property or an interest in property only bylaw, and whereas the Westview Child Care Society operates a preschool, the hub, daycare, and before and after school care programs at a Cole Roosevelt Park Community School, a daycare at Lahane Elementary School, and a before and after school care program at the Booth Operations Building. Now therefore be, and it is hereby resolved that the board grant a lease of classrooms and other spaces to Westview Child Care Society for a term of 1 year commencing on September 1, 2023 and ending on August 31, 2024 at the rent and on the terms provided to the members of the board with such minor amendments as are satisfactory to the secretary treasurer of the board, and that the secretary treasurer of the board execute the lease on behalf of the board. This bylaw may be cited as school district number 52 Prince Rupert lease of property bylaw number 20232401, read a second time, June 20th, 2023.
Seconder? Trustee Sanchez, all in favor? Thank you. So
I
moved.
just for policy reasons, we don't need to read the bylaw again. We just read the first, second, third, and adoption.
Okay, read a third time, finally passed and adopted the 20th day of June 2023.
Seconder? Or just all in favor now?
Second,
Need a second.
Seconder? Yeah. I saw trustee Sanchez and all in favor?
aye.
Wonderful. So moved. Thank you very much. Yay, 11.3.
Right, Madam Chair, we had put this on the agenda because there was some discussion that where trustees were concerned about the funding for the exempt salary increments and increases. And so we put this here because we believe that there was a direction that you wanted to issue to me to write such a letter
Or the chair.
through the chair.
Yes, thank you. So for further clarity, this was when we did our budget. Correct? This is when we made it when we spoke of the 250,000.
Right.
When we did our budget, we spoke of the 250,000, seeing that that didn't come as we had thought, and other smaller districts are feeling that impact as well. We thought it would be beneficial if the chair wrote a letter to the Ministry of Education and Childcare as to how this decision is impacting smaller districts. Any questions? Trustee Horn?
I don't say that it's, not only is it unfair, but they made it very difficult for us to budget without telling us what was going on. And so that's why we're prompted to do something about it, because they forced it on us and forced it through our budget process without informing us of what was going on. Right.
And I would also add to that, that this truly impacts, as we speak of equity all the time, this truly is felt with smaller districts and definitely is not creating as big of an impact to the larger districts. Would anyone like to make that motion? Trustee Pucci, seconded trustee Horn, all in favor? To create such a letter? Right, great, thank you, so moved. And information items, 12.1, tomorrow, as we have shared, National Indigenous Peoples Day, June 21st. Our celebrations are taking place from noon to 8:30 at the Civic Center. And, oh yes, trustee Beal? Wait, sorry.
I'll just wait for you to finish, Kate. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry, correction, noon to 8 at the Civic Center. I understand there are a lot of festivities happening, celebrations, singing, vendors. 12.2 is our last day of school for the 2023 school year. 12.3 is our administrative day is June 30th. 12.4, school will reopen after Labor Day, September 5th, 2023. And our next meeting is the third Tuesday of September. September 19th. Thank you very much. Trustee Beal.
I just actually want to apologize that I'm pretty sure someone heard me say honey when my daughter was bringing me a coffee. It might have sounded like I was calling you honey, Kate, and I want to apologize to the audience. We've suffered this week a loss in our community, and I want to recognize that, a great loss of 4 young lives. And I don't want that to go unrecognized tonight because I think it's very important. Most of those people that had some kind of connection with our children, our school system, with just the general public. I just wanted to recognize, my daughter is suffering because she grew up with one of these children. So if anyone thought I was calling you honey or something tonight, it was not meant for you. It was meant because my daughter is we're trying to comfort each other through this time.
Thank you very much for that, Trustee Beal, and my apologies. I did need to acknowledge that at the beginning of the meeting, as well as a loss to our school community. And so if we could have, before we go into question and answer, just a moment of silence to acknowledge the losses in our community.
Thank you, Kate.
I thank you all very much for that moment and also to just hold your heart. Thank you. So we now have a 10-minute question and answer period. Yes, please.
Question, actually, I've got 3 questions if people don't mind. Before, I just wanted to congratulate for getting through another year and to express my gratitude for your ongoing public service.
Thank you.
It means a lot. My first question was from the operations report. I wanted to know, I know that at Charles Hayes, we had trouble with mice. And I was hoping we could get an update on what the plans are to deal with that over the summer, and if we have any other schools that have trouble with mice.
Great.
Right. James, if you're comfortable with that?
Yep. I
Wonderful,
can
thank you.
address that one. So there was some rumors going around that there was issues with mice and the rumors aren't as big as they have turned out to be. The rumors, and so basically, yes, the mice have been dealt with, and every time there's a complaint, pest control does attend Charles Hayes and they deal with it, and they have been doing that right from the beginning. And so a lot of the rumors that did come out about it are not actually substantiated.
Will we be able to use the lockers this year?
Actually, the lockers were, they weren't used because of COVID. It wasn't due to mice. Yeah, it was a COVID protocol coming out of COVID. That was a purely decision from administrators. Yeah. So that's where the rumor that wasn't
That's sandwiches.
yeah.
My second question was, I was wondering if the board would consider putting the contingency fund in our treasurer's report each month, since that's an issue that is of importance.
We'll take that under consideration and look at that in September. Thank you.
My third question was regarding the new policy. I'm a bit strong on this one. I wanted to taking pictures is not a crime in Canada. And so putting the limitation on people taking pictures is problematic at best. Especially considering the fact that the school district regularly places all the students under video surveillance. It's a little inappropriate to place a restriction on students themselves, especially when you consider the fact that marginalized students often use video recordings as part of their protection. It can be used, these technologies can be used in bullying, but there is also a protective aspect of it. Also, whistleblowers may wish to use recordings, and that may not be in, that may not be something that they can get permission for. So I think that there's some aspects of that which need to be considered. Technology works all ways. I realize this is challenging. We want to balance out, on one hand, protections, on the other hand, possible risks and dangers. But an all out, giving the principals so much power over individuals. Certainly as a human rights activist, I've often used video recordings to correct harms. And I think that our students deserve that capability. So I'd like to ask if the board would consider that and perhaps pass that information along to the policy committee so that we can find a balance that works out for everybody.
Thank you for that. And also, we will take that into consideration and also to share that policies always go to stakeholders for input before we ever create policy. So thank you for that. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good summer.
Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once. Going twice. Not seeing any, thank you all so much. Have an absolutely beautiful summer and we will see you in September. Thank you all for attending tonight.